So yes, you join me with the owner. Now, as much as I love to drive in this car and to get used to it, ultimately someone who's driven the car for now about 8,000 miles. So yeah, introduce the owner to the channel. How have you found the car over your sort of 8,000 miles so far?
Well, I haven't regretted the purchase at all. I'm quite a fussy customer. I think when you're paying a 5-figure sum for a car, I think you absolutely have the right to be. But overall, I'm pleased with my decision. There's something, I think it's a car with hidden depths. Some things, some of the novelty factor has worn off. But it's just like anything, you get used to it. But what I would say is, I appreciate this car more after I haven't driven it for a bit and I've had driven other cars, if you see what I mean. I definitely appreciate its talents more when I come back to it after maybe a week, let's say a week of not driving it, and I've been around in the slushmobile.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah, definitely. How was it as a passenger? Because this is the first time you've been a passenger in the car.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be honest. I do think the performance is. I think the performance is excellent for the car.
I'll agree with that. I don't think there's anyone going to complain about the power it's got, particularly the torque. I don't know if you noticed the torque low down.
Well, it's one of the reasons I bought the car. It puts out 170 foot-pounds, which is a lot in a car that weighs less than a ton, at 2,500 RPM. And if you think about how when you're just trundling around town, that's generally when you change up, isn't it? So yeah, I'm not surprised about that. But yeah, really enjoyed the car. But being a passenger, I'm not going to lie, at the back, for some of the drivers, it felt even faster.
You know what? A lot of people say that because I think it's a little bit because you're not in control, you're not behind the wheel. But it is like a perception thing. You do get pulled on a little bit more. But yeah, it certainly felt really fast. When you were looking to get this car, did you think about the Fiesta ST line, the Up GTI?
Yes.
So that's the two cars that I've driven quite a lot. So where are you? Well, yeah. Why did you decide to choose this over those?
Okay, so I've read the group tests with them. So the reason why I chose this, it was more of the reason why I went into the showroom. It was more what swung it is more of a head decision than a heart decision. I'll explain what I mean. Number one, these are comparatively rare. We'll come on to why. I mean, since I stumbled on the idea of maybe getting one, I think I've only seen, including this one, like 3 in the wild. It's comparatively rare to see. It's number one rarity. I would say it's not the obvious choice.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the reason I went for it was I was watching an old episode of Grand Tour and Clarkson was driving his Golf GTI versus James May in his i3. Do you remember that episode?
Yeah, I do remember.
They were messing around on the motorway and then he span off the motorway and started, being very GTI-ish, and he was doing things like sending voice messages, sending text messages or WhatsApp messages via, I think in his case it was Apple CarPlay, and using the adaptive cruise control. He was talking about the benefits of that and how he didn't need to steer it on the motorway. So I was like, well, I don't believe in financing cars as a general rule. I tend to buy them outright. And I thought, well, I don't have the cash to buy a Golf GTI outright. Besides, I'm not sure actually. I'm an Android phone user, and I'm not sure actually. Did VW Golfs, let's say 16 plate, were they only Apple CarPlay?
Oh yeah, that's a good point, because even in mine you have to pay extra, I think, because even mine you have to activate like a code to get it, so it's built in, but they'll charge you more.
Okay.
I'm
German generosity at its finest.
Yeah, exactly. Not ideal, because that's the thing. This is really well equipped. You don't have to think. You just it's got everything.
The only thing you need to think about when this was new in the showroom is what colour do I want it.
Yeah.
And even that wasn't a cost option.
It looks, and I can't believe that's not a cost option, because it's really nice. You can get a similar colour. It's called Oryx White on Golf R's, and it looks like that, and that's like Golf R royalty, basically, that paint, and it's so hard to find. And I'm pretty sure it was like at the time, like £900 option. It was expensive for its day. So yeah, it shows how manufacturers do rip us off. Whereas with Suzuki, it's like, this is what you get. You get everything in kind of like the package.
I mean, Suzuki, I think they do have a good motorsport heritage. We can't forget that. It's just more 2 wheels than 4 wheels.
Yeah, the bikes. That was straight away. I was like,
yeah. So, I mean, it has the lightness of a bike.
And again, I still can't really quite work it out in my head, because the car is light, and no doubt it is under a ton. but it just doesn't drive. It drives like a more competent, heavier car, if that makes sense, in terms of its refinement.
You know what? An analogy I heard about this car, and I don't know if you agree. It's like an accountant that works out. That's the analogy I heard. Do you reckon there's something in that?
That is quite true. Yeah, because as opposed to like say like the Up GTI and the Fiesta ST, they're more nimble on their toes and they're less refined. That's the compromise you get from them. And this is the balance of, if you wanted to choose that car, which is, it's fast, it is fun. I was smiling. I had a good time.
I think it is fun, yeah.
I had a good time. Is it going to hit those really, really top end limits? No, but then you get that payback when you're going over bumps, when you're going over stuff. And you know, I can only tell you, driving that Up GTI, it was a load of fun. I love the Heritage, and I am a VW fan. But it
and a fast forward fan.
And a fast forward fan.
Don't let yourself down, Sam. You know.
Yep. It wasn't refined in my opinion. Like road noise, wind noise. Like I would be happy to drive this like on the motorway up to Scotland. Genuinely, I'd be happy to sit in it.
Adaptive cruise would be very helpful for those sort of monotonous journeys.
Yeah. In an Up GTI, that's definitely sort of town city. Whereas this, I would say, this is more you can take it on the motorway, take it on urban, and the Fiesta is in between. So you've got like those three, but they're all unique in their own. It's nice to see three different manufacturers going about it in sort of like a different way.
So just going back, Sam, to the reasons I carried on boring it. So it's well spec. The other thing, there was two other things that did it. I mean, obviously I enjoyed the drive when I took it for a test drive. The dealers were very nice as well. It was also, believe it or not, at the time, if I was a YouTuber of your standing, I would have done a YouTube video saying I bought the cheapest Suzuki Swift Sport in the country, and then we'll have to put in brackets from a main dealer. Because believe it or not, even though they're all around, they're kind of priced to compete with each other, second hand, at least at the time, this is just slightly before that massive bubble we've got now. Because if you were going to a Suzuki dealership now and say, I want an 18 plate Swift Sport, I've had a look on their website, they charge more now, despite being 2 years newer, despite having 7,000 more miles than I bought it. They charge a good 10-20% more than
Is that a little bit because of the rarity as well? Because it's just one of those the way the market is.
I assume so. I mean, you know, you can do a cap HPI check just to see if it's being valued correctly. When I've done I had a quick butchers, it does seem they are. I just think we got used. I don't think we've had this bubble before. And obviously pre-COVID, I mean, during COVID when you couldn't drive cars, Suzuki were actually selling these cars, from what I could see, less than book value just to sell them on the second-hand market, on their approved used market. But I think for me, like you said, you probably think probably you say the Up and the ST or ST line are probably better, more fun hatches. I guess for me, so I guess they're better cars in that respect, but I'm not sure they're better ownership prospects. It's 4-cylinder, so it's inherently balanced, and I just have a long-term concern, because I'm the kind of guy who keeps his cars for a long time. I just have a long-term concern about having a 3-cylinder 1-litre engine with direct injection and turbocharged heavily. I don't know, do you think those things have got lots of life? I'm not sure. If you look after it, sure, but I'm yet to be convinced. A 1.4 4-cylinder turbo putting out 140 horsepower is not, even if you go back to the 90s, that probably wouldn't be considered, you know, it wouldn't have been considered like, wow. Do you see?
Yeah, no, and actually the way this drives, it feels like a 4-cylinder, sounds like a 4-cylinder as well. Yeah, I don't know how they get so much power out of 3-cylinders these days. Like
they turbocharge it with an inch of its life. That's it.
Well, I've driven the GR Yaris. I know it's a different standard of turn of power, but that's 3-cylinder as well. And I'm thinking it's pushing out like 270 brake horsepower.
1.6 3-cylinder engine, 100. That's crazy.
And I'm just like, and I've spoken to owners, and again, funnily enough, they can have issues. You're putting a lot of power through not that much. And I think that's sort of, this is why that probably, you've probably explained it a little bit for me. The 4-cylinder thing made it feel more grown up. it was a really interesting driving experience, because I was just sort of like, oh, I expect this to be blowing around a bit, it's not going to weigh anything, but it's not. And then when you turn the corners, it just sort of just gripped and hung on.
And these seats, I think, really help with that, giving power on. They are really good. I mean, Sam, can I just ask, out of the three, and I'll come on to the final point, and link it to the point with Toyota, out of those three you mentioned that it was basically designed to compete with either brand new or on the second-hand market, what would you say is the best all round as a daily drive, when you think about what we have to do with cars, drive up and down motorways, go to the shops, etc., etc.?
Yeah, for everyday people, I would say this.
Okay.
The up is quite small. Like, this is bigger. You showed me the boot and stuff like that. This feels bigger as well, even though you park it up and it's still quite a small little car.
I quite like that trick it pulls off.
It's a really weird one on the brain. The Fiestas, I mean, they've sold so many, and they don't make the Fiesta anymore, so that's
very sad.
That's gone. For me, I'm still perhaps hanging on to as much fun as I can get, and because I don't commute in my car, I'm train or that's pretty much all I do now, or work from home. I subjectively go for as fun as I can probably get.
Because you drive less often.
Yeah, because I drive less often. That's definitely the main point. And what I do love about, I'm one for you as well in terms of, like, I look for the long term kind of thing. Up GTIs, they hold their money, like they're worth basically exactly what they were new. They don't change, and yeah, they're really good. Fast Fords, lots of people in this country like fast Fords, so that helps the residuals.
I used to have one before this. I had a 1992 Ford Escort XR3i, and some of the character of this, you know, with the engine, it reminded me of that. I mean, they're completely not alike in that respect, but I just remember when I was driving the XR and driving this, I have to say, I think they both had character.
Yeah, definitely.
Believe it or not, this doesn't feel appreciably faster than the XR, believe it or not, the 90s model. But then again, you're not going to really feel half a second or in a second to 60 miles per hour. You're not going to really feel that, are you? I mean, at least I wouldn't.
Yeah. And this felt, I would say, it felt quicker than an ST line, and it felt quicker than a Up GTI.
It's because it is.
Because it is genuinely quicker. But on those cars, it felt like you were going faster because of that whole, you're kind of shaking about a little bit. It's one of those. And that's why I was sort of here. I was like,
so it's edgy.
Yeah, so I was like, wow, it's got up to 60 like that. And I was like, wow, it's just kind of just
no drama, no fireworks.
No drama. I'm not sort of like, no point the wheel was scrabbling, no point the front wheels felt like they were spinning, and the small sectioned wheels,
they are.
It just
by today's standards.
It kind of kept pace of it. Yeah, it felt more grown up than it should be. I don't know how it's done that trick. Have you, as like sort of like a bit of a summary, I suppose, have you had like any issues? Have you had any sort of, like, if you were to say like your pros and cons over your ownership so far?
Okay, I would say two things about that. I mean, going on to the ownership prospects, I would say it's probably a better, at this stage of the car's life, it's probably a better ownership prospect than either a Ford or a VW. I mean, one of the things I would give Japanese manufacturers and also South Korean manufacturers is they do stand behind their product more on average than most other types of motor vehicle manufacturers. I mean, it comes with the your standard 3-year 60,000 mile warranty, but then after that they'll give you another 4 years, which is service activated, which will then take you to a total of 7 years. So even though this car's 5 years old, provided I keep up with the main dealer servicing, which we'll come on to in a bit, that is that's a 7-year warranty. The Germans have got some catching up to do.
3 years, that's basically it.
And then you have to pay for another one, right?
Yeah.
So they definitely stand behind their product more. So I think it's a better, from my perspective, it's probably a better ownership prospect when you take things in the round. It's a pretty economical car as well, despite the small fuel tank. I mean, on the drive up, you saw nearly got 50 mpg. Yeah. So on the motorway. So in terms of ownership prospect, I guess good thing. I guess the dealers are nice, very pleasant people. They do give you time of day. I mean, it swings and roundabouts, I would say. I mean, we could spend for hours talking about main dealer servicing. I guess I would say the quality of the service, if you think about it, service has been very good, I would say. I just think, from my perspective, a few things when it comes to main dealer servicing aren't done to the degree of precision you would expect.
Okay.
I'll try to give you an example of what I mean.
Yeah.
So I took this car in for a health check, and I was saying I keep losing on the near side rear tire. I keep losing tire pressure. My tire pressure warning light keeps coming on every week without fail, and I pump it back up. Can you just take a look at it just to make sure there's nothing wrong with the sensor? I've done the, when you get some soapy water and spray it around just to make sure, see if there's any sort of air bubbles. Did that, there was nothing, and they said, oh, it's fine, we can't detect anything. Because it came with budget tyres, I put on Continental Sport Contact 5s, which came from out of the factory. It was a good deal from a tyre fitter, whose name I won't mention, but they spell quick uniquely. And I said, yeah, so what's the issue with the near side rear tyre? There's a guy pointed it, and it's like, yeah, there's a big nail in it.
No.
I was like, so what? Why did they didn't pick that up in the health check? All they have to do is spin it.
Yeah, that's not ideal.
Next time they put in the wrong grade of oil.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then it was overfilled as well. So to be fair, they did change it. Well, they said they changed it.
But you had to flag it.
Yeah, I had to flag it. But other than that, pleasant. Yeah, I would say as an ownership prospect, it is good. The only two failings, one of them is under warranty. Do you remember that harsh winter we had in December 2022?
Yeah.
-5. Yeah. It's got electric folding mirrors, of course.
Yeah.
And then obviously when you unlock the car, that one wasn't popping out, which is kind of hairy, and you can't just go and pull it out. So that was replaced under warranty, because the parts had to come from a ship in Japan. It was a good 3 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So.
Oh, of course, that's the thing with parts. It's not as potentially as straightforward. Okay.
Yep. And I think you might have mentioned it in your main road test video. It appears the tailgate struts. Have you ever known that to fail on any car?
No.
After 5 years and 30,000 miles, it just wasn't holding open, was it? It was very recently, so I don't know if I can get that replaced under warranty. But in terms of engine and drivetrain and rust proofing, I think this car is. I think long term it should be fine, but I think in terms of ownership prospects, actually, I think the previous generation was probably a better long-term bet. Number one, it's got port fuel injection, so it doesn't get carboned up. So, yep. Yeah. I know we're getting really technical and geeky about that. Yeah. It's got standard cruise control, none of this radar guided, and I've noticed a few times on the dash when it's been really cold, there's a lot of saying this is inoperative, that's inoperative. Yeah, I don't think you get that, and it's naturally aspirated, the previous generation one. So, your turbo's not going to go.
Yeah.
So I think, and apparently it's more fun to drive, even though overall this is probably a better car. So
a pre-2016 sort of Swift might be...
Yeah, the last generation. 2017 into Swift, I think it's probably a long-term bet. I mean, the thing is, we've got to walnut blast the engine at some point. 3% fuel economy, better fuel economy with a direct injection engine. But then they don't figure out that you have to pay £500 every 30,000 miles to blast the engine. Where's the fuel saving in that?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, and that is a really good point, actually. Is it actually? It doesn't make the difference, does it?
No, and remember, all that carbon's got to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's not clear.
So I think long term, I think the suspension and drivetrain will be fine. I think it should be fine, but you're just concerned about the long-term viability of electrics generally in any car, aren't you? As a general rule? Do you worry about whether or not your adaptive cruise control button will break? Not particularly in the Golf, I'll be honest. Okay. It literally, I mean, again, and this is one thing. I don't spend as much time in well, you made actually a really good point. Did you mention Hyundai? Yeah, I mean, I didn't, but not by name, but yeah. But as like a comparison, because I've spent a fair amount of time in like the i20N, and I know it's, again, not, I know it's more. I mean, it's the same, it's in the same segment of the market. So if I said like an i20, that feels more like this. So I get that now. I do get that, because they're very, very refined, very, very competent, and very, very good. It's almost like doesn't it ride quite hard though, Sam? Yeah, it does. Well, the N mode anyway. The N mode was very hard and a little bit more skippy, so not quite as refined, but it felt like, yeah, they're on their own sort of like I suppose out of Europe Yeah. Okay. I'm sure it was developed in European roads. Though.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot around the Nürburgring and bits for that. But no, I've had a really good time in it. I think if I was to sum it up for me, I would say if you want a really great all-rounder of this kind of size, I would go for it. I've always been intrigued about what these cars are actually like to drive with and actually to live with, and as a one car, probably work for quite a lot of people. It certainly would work for me. If you want something that extra edge of fun, you will find that more into like an Up GTI and a Fiesta ST line, even potentially a Fiesta ST, because the big thing and what people were talking about is this car certainly list price is a fair bit more than an Up GTI. And
you mean this particular non-hybrid model?
Yeah.
So at the time, if you got it around the time like this was manufactured, you could have got it for 16,495.
Yeah, there was that.
Yeah, 16.5k. But list price it was 18k. But I think remember that Up is technically from the class below. Technically,
yeah,
that's more to compare with the Alto or.
Yeah.
I don't know what the Celerio or Ignis, I don't know. And then the Fiesta is more expensive because once you kit it up to the same spec as this.
That is true. If you want everything that this has got, it's got one package. You don't have to think about it, which is actually nice. If you look on the used market to get a potential better deal, you know it's got everything. You just look for your colour and you're like,
that's
straight
it.
On.
Yeah, there's no other spec to be had. I mean, obviously there's dealer options like stickers and stuff, but that's not spec. You know, that's not tech. So yeah, very much so. The only surprising thing about this car, which isn't true of the hybrid, is the insurance group.
You said that beforehand, yeah. So it's quite steep for a car of this size when it should be like younger.
This car is in a higher insurance group than your Golf R.
Why is that?
Or a Civic Type R. And to anybody else on planet Earth, you're like, why? It's a 1.4 turbo motor. That's it. It's incredible. It's because apparently insurers think it's expensive to repair in the event of a crash because of Suzuki's hard tech platform that it sits on. I mean, look at all the tech and kit you get on this. This car is lighter than my old 1992 Ford Escort XR3i, and look at all the kit this has that old car didn't. Airbags, adaptive cruise control, air conditioning, climate control, infotainment system, hill hold assist, just and a pretty tricksy gauge in the middle as well. Didn't have that in the old XR. Lane keep assist. The specification is very, very high.
Yeah, that is really, really interesting, and that will definitely affect younger buyers. Will affect any buyer really, because insurance is such a huge cost of ownership. So yeah, that is certainly a drawback. I
don't regret my decision. I think there's a really good synergy between the controls, and I do think it wears its Jekyll and Hyde character quite well. If you just want to dawdle rather than dart, it does that very well. When you want to dart, it does that also very well. So I think it's probably not the most exciting car in its class from what I've read, but all round it's probably one of the better ones from what I've seen and heard. And everything in life is a compromise.
Yes, you get one end and you get the other, and it's actually probably a great way to end it, to be fair, because that is my impressions when my sort of like hour drive with it, and for you to say that after your 7,000-8,000 miles, that's kind of a great way. But let us know in the comments as well if you do have a Suzuki Swift Sport, because I'm very much more for the community as well. So if this car has been out, for example, it's a 2018 car, let us know your thoughts in the comments, and let us know if you have that same sort of decision choosing between the likes of the Fiesta ST line. Yes, I mentioned the Up GTI only because I've driven it recently and I appreciate it's a slightly smaller car, slightly less money, but again, still that sort of like do everything, really small, sort of easy on the city. I think this has got a lot of plus points, and thank you so much for allowing me the chance to kind of drive it. And like, share, subscribe, plenty more content to come.